Hi, and welcome back to Your Autism Game Plan. I'm Joya Vanderlaan, a family nurse practitioner, a functional medicine specialist, and an autism mom. In this video, I want to touch on meltdowns. If you are the parent or caregiver of a child with autism, you have very likely either heard about or experienced a meltdown with your child. I want to talk about some of the causes of meltdowns, what they look like, and even a little bit, especially from an integrative or functional medicine standpoint, of how we can handle these meltdowns. So let's get started. So what's the difference between a tantrum and a meltdown? I know I've been guilty of using the terms interchangeably, which is not correct. A tantrum is usually a child's way of gaining control or getting something they want. And a tantrum will usually pretty quickly end once that happens, once they get what they want. A meltdown does not look like a tantrum. Meltdowns are typically out of the child's control. They are not intentional. They are not trying to make you upset. They are not trying to hoodwink you. They are not trying to swindle you. It's out of their control. These meltdowns can happen when children are in a state of sensory dysregulation, or they're either overwhelmed with sensory information or they're in need of sensory stimulation. So remember, they're not intentional, and very often meltdowns will happen without any audience at all. In other words, it's not attention seeking. It can really help to remember that in order to know how we should react, how we should feel about it. If we think that our children are doing this intentionally, it's a lot harder to act with love and grace and patience. Let's talk about 4 of the big contributors to meltdowns. The first one, as we talked about already, is a sensory issue. So maybe they're getting overwhelmed by sensory input. Now, that doesn't just involve touch. That could involve visual, that could involve auditory. Something like, it's too bright or the lights are flashing, you're at a Christmas light display and it's just too much for them. Maybe it's noisy. Maybe you're at a sporting meet, some sort of basketball game, soccer game, whatever it is, and it's loud, and the sounds may be echoing if you're inside. Think about that. What about vitamin deficiencies? Things like magnesium and B vitamins can be really important in helping to curb the severity and occurrence incidence of meltdowns. Sleep. Sleep always comes into the picture. What if you didn't get enough sleep? Think about how you would feel. Would you be full of love and grace and light and patience and, be perfectly regulated? I know that's a struggle for me when I don't get enough sleep. So let's think about that in terms of our children. Even if they seem to be sleeping, they're getting the required number of hours of sleep. Are they getting restful sleep? Do we need to look into that? And then hunger. Hunger can be a big factor too in meltdowns. Again, I'd ask you to think, what do you feel like when you are hungry? It is much harder to be patient and even keel and control our emotions and impulses and act intentionally. So that's no different with our kids. And in fact, it's probably harder for kids with autism when they have low blood sugar or they haven't eaten in a while. Kids need to eat frequently, every couple of hours. And I would encourage you to think about a high protein or fat snack. Even fruits and veggies would be great if you can get those into your kids. But think about these different factors that could be contributing to meltdowns in your child and start to notice habits. When do they occur? Is it when they're out in bright light areas? Is it when it's loud? So start to know your child and what triggers their meltdowns. There may be just a few things. There may be many things. It can be a confusing process, but really try and nitpick what is going on and what are they bothered by? When do these happen? And see if you can develop a sense of pattern. I wish there was one answer that I could give you that would completely stop all your child's meltdowns. But all our kids are so different, and the causes of all their meltdowns can be so different. Even within the same child, causes can be multiple. So I'm going to go over a few options, things to think about, things you may want to look into. Think, is this causing meltdowns in my child? And then can I address that issue? So let's go over a couple together. one of the signs that a child might be getting overwhelmed is if they have any stimming behaviors. That can be a sign that they're attempting to self-regulate. Now, maybe they're successful with their stimming and maybe they are able to get back to a place of sensory regulation. But if they're not, that can sometimes be a precursor to a bigger meltdown. Sometimes using a heavy blanket, if you think that a sense of touch is involved with their meltdowns, you can get these, we call them heavy blankets, or they're weighted blankets. I've got videos on that as well, on how to choose those, particularly in my sleep video, which you can have when you sign up for my weekly newsletter. Those heavy blankets provide a nice, deep, but gentle sensory input for the child to kind of regulate the touch sense. Again, if you can figure out what might be causing their meltdowns, what comes before a meltdown, then you can do things to reduce the chance that they get to the point of a meltdown. So for instance, if you notice that noises really bother them, maybe you need to get them some noise canceling headphones. Try it, see if it works. If it's a light thing, maybe you buy extra dark sunglasses for them and they feel extra special when they get to put on their special sunglasses, but it gives them a sense of empowerment and control as well, which is often lacking in kids, let alone our autistic kids. What about snacks? We talked about hunger or hypoglycemia being an issue with meltdowns. Make sure, as I do, I never leave home without a snack. Maybe it's a protein bar or a nut bar. We don't have any nut allergies in our family, thank goodness, so we can do those. If you do have nut allergies, even an apple in your purse is gonna last for a few days at least. But there are lots of protein and fat snacks that you can carry with you. Even those little packets of sunflower seed butter that are individually wrapped, just keep a few in your purse. We talked about sleep. Sleep certainly can cause an increased risk, increased chance of meltdowns. Remember, you don't feel well when you don't get enough sleep, neither do our kids. So if you think sleep is an issue, if you notice that your child is kind of really restless moving around in bed all night, or their covers are a big mess, or maybe they're snoring even, get that kind of thing checked out. Sleep studies can be done on children. Make sure you look into what you think might be causing their meltdowns. You want to make sure you're giving appropriate vitamins to optimize their levels, things like magnesium, zinc, B vitamins, and then of course making sure that their diet is as good as it can be while still understanding that they're kids and they're sometimes very picky eaters. I think one of the big things for me was understanding that I need to learn how to stay calm during a kid's meltdown. What would happen was I would get so irritated with myself for not being able to know how to snap my child out of this. Well, that's not how it works. So if I can stay calm, chances are they are going to be at least less inundated with sensory overload from our chaos that we're contributing to the situation, and hopefully then come to a point of resolution more quickly if we stay calm. Remember, meltdowns are not the same as tantrums. If we can remember that and understand that our child is not doing this on purpose to make us upset or to try and get something out of us, then it's easier for us as parents. At least it was for me. When I can remember that, it's much easier for me to stay calm and focus on what I can do for my child rather than focus on how they're making me upset. So I hope this has helped you learn a little bit about meltdowns and what you can do to help your child through the meltdowns. Remember, be gentle with yourself. You're doing a great job.